Welcome back to Cinematic. I'm Ryan. We're talking about Kung Fu movies, and this week we're talking about The Protector. Quite possibly not that Protector, but Jackie Chan's The Protector from 1985. And I was right, this was another try at launching Jackie Chan in the States. 5 years prior, it was The Big Brawl or Battle Creek Brawl that was supposed to do it, and neither did. This one, especially The Protector, was a big flop in the States, at least in part because of the massive creative differences that Jackie had with the director, James Glickenhaus, who, not an uninteresting career for this guy. The Protector was the last in kind of a series of the guy that does things movies that he had going on. He did The Astrologer, then he did The Exterminator, which I guess was his big hit, although not the Transmorphers of its time. The Terminator having come out the year before, I thought The Exterminator was going to be, actually marketing-wise it probably was. That was totally somebody cashing in with the title. But the movie itself is actually more of a Punisher type. So, but after that he did The Soldier. And then after that, I only know him as the man who wrote and directed the McBain movie. And like, not the Simpsons joke either. The real life, actual McBain movie, which I don't think has anything to do with the Simpsons joke for the most part, besides being a pretty good exemplar, I guess. But it has Christopher Walken in it, and Michael Ironsides, and Maria Conchita Alonso from The Running Man, among other things. So there's a pretty good riff tracks of it out there that gives you any hint. I hesitate to use the word schlock. I feel like, as fun as it is to say, it can't be nice usually when you hear it. But his movies are a little schlocky, you know, and knowingly. You know, I don't think you go on to executive produce Maniac Cop or Frankenhooker without knowing what you're doing, essentially, but they're a little bit like that. So the marriage with Jackie Chan made some sense. You know, Glickenhaus was kind of hot at the time, doing well with movies that, you know, fit right in with a Rambo or Red Dawn or something like that. But I didn't see his cut of The Protector. I saw the Hong Kong cut, which I did double check after kind of spouting off last week. It was Jackie Chan's personal edit, the Hong Kong cut that he sent out to, I believe, just Hong Kong and Japan, but did perform better, and by all accounts is the cut to watch. So I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the differences between the two. If you want, just go to Wikipedia. Actually, there's a really extensive breakdown of how they're different for whatever reason. But again, by pretty much any metric, the Hong Kong cut is the way to go. You know, financially, critically, whatever. Pretty much everybody, but I think James Glickenhaus prefers the Hong Kong cut. So I'm going to talk about that, but I feel like my criticisms might actually not be that different between the two if I had seen the US cut. But I want to start with the good stuff first, because this thing begins in what might as well be post-apocalyptic New York. Like, you could take out this beginning scene and put it in Escape from New York and probably not notice that it's this semi-driver who's entered the city, gets robbed by a punk gang that's literally dressed up in like metal and like, you know, all sorts of weird stuff. And when Jackie and his partner come on the scene, it's like completely stripped. Like, they've not only stolen like everything out of the truck, like the truck is destroyed, and the driver wakes up and is like, what happened? And it's basically all in service of this bit, so Jackie and his partner can turn to the guy and be like, welcome to New York, because it's a gritty buddy cop movie. Honestly, it's like Jackie Chan meets 48 Hours, except not as promising as that sounds, and actually more violent. They end up at a bar like immediately after, and not because they're following a lead or anything, and some coked up criminals literally try to rob the place while they're in it. Chan's in the bathroom, and when Chan comes out, he number one kills Mike Starr immediately, by the way, so 2 movies in a row for Mike Starr, but he's not, like, go back and watch The Last Dragon if you want to see a lot of Mike Starr. He's in this one for approximately 1 second as he gets shot, and that concludes his part for this movie. And then Jackie turns his gun on another guy that when he shoots him, he flies out the window of the bar. So, and not with like a shotgun either. It's a handgun, and the guy just takes a wild leap. So it might be more like a Jackie Chan meets John Woo, except not as promising as that sounds. Even though the coked up bad guys do end up killing his partner Michael, and it quickly turns into a speedboat shootout. And I'll just say it ends with Jackie driving his speedboat into the bad guy's speedboat as he escapes on a helicopter and a large explosion ensues. So if you had to guess what the very next scene was, what would it be? Obviously, he gets chewed out by his captain because his captain's under pressure from the mayor. It's just literally that movie for at least the first 20 minutes. And it's not bad. You know, it cut to him having been kind of demoted or punished in some way. He has to work a fashion show, and he bumps into fellow demoted cop Danny Aiello, and we've got our buddies. That's basically it for the remainder. They're at the fashion show when the main guy's daughter gets kidnapped. Turns out the main guy is in league with a drug runner in Hong Kong, and something has gone bad with the business, so he kidnapped his daughter, and we're off, basically, to Hong Kong. So you know the type of movie I'm talking about at this point, and I think if you're up for it, you're not going to be disappointed, really. It's just not a Jackie Chan movie, kind of, in a strange way. And I don't mean that in the way that it's different. That's kind of, I feel like I've talked about this before, but that's one of my least favorite criticisms, especially when, you know, a franchise or an artist will try something different and it might not land, sure. You know, I don't think it's above criticism, but just the criticism that it is different from what they've done before doesn't, like, shouldn't be certainly the main focus of it. So I'm not saying that. And it's not that it's a serious movie and I've only seen Jackie in comedies. It's not even that. It's not even the police story, to be on the nose, because Jackie obviously proved that would work. In fact, I think Police Story came out in 1985 as well. I don't think we're going to do it for the series, but obviously a classic that did very well. It's this idea that to launch Jackie in the States, they needed to change everything about him in a way. You know, like it's almost depressing in the way that somebody obviously would have been like, oh, sure, he's maybe the best martial artist in the world right now, certainly for screen, whatever. But he doesn't have a gun. You know, if we're going to put him in an American movie, they're not going to get it if he doesn't have a gun. So what do? They give him a gun, and he shows up, you know, at a crime scene, and something's a little fishy. What is it? He pulls out a gun. Jackie is the weapon, right? Later on, there's a scene where he defuses a bomb. Do I want to see Jackie defuse a bomb? Of course I do. With a pocket knife? No. I want to see him punch and kick that bomb till it's diffused, or whatever you got to do. So that's ends up being, I think, my main criticism of this thing, which I would imagine is not going to go away if you see the US version. So for all the smart changes that Jackie himself made for the Hong Kong cut, I don't think he could quite escape that. And again, would prove that it's doable in Police Story, I don't know how many times over, but in Crime Story as well, probably. But what does remain of Jackie in this movie, in this cut, is pretty darn good. There's a fair amount of really good, not just decent, stunts kind of peppered throughout the first half. There's some good fight scenes, some really good choreography. The story is familiar, but again, it checks all the boxes in a way that it remains entertaining. It's decent. It's all very decent. Even Roy Chiao, who is the big bad in this one and isn't given a lot to do. I don't think he's even given like that many lines. Turns out he is the Hong Kong partner that's running drugs that kidnapped the other guy's daughter. But he's respected in the community. So it's hard to get him. The buddy cop trappings are decent too. You know, I will still use the word trappings because I think while Aiello is good, and you can imagine would be good in this role, and probably was good in this role many, many times, there's just not a lot of scenes of them literally playing off each other. So the trappings are good, but you don't get a lot of that actual meat in this buddy cop film necessarily. But again, overall, totally works. And the final 15 minutes, at least, are flat out great. It's definitely a Jackie Chan movie at that point. He has a knockdown drag out with Bill Wallace, who I actually thought I knew from somewhere else, but after looking him up, I don't actually think so, because he was another like very accomplished martial artist. He was a kickboxing and karate champ. Specifically, he was the undefeated middleweight kickboxing champ for 6 straight years, something like 23 straight wins there. So it would make sense that Chuck Norris and crew would recruit him for a movie called A Force of One, which I haven't seen. So again, I don't know why he looks familiar to me, but apparently he would go on to be in several other films, but also start personal training and coaching stars on sets and stuff like that. Apparently he became very close with Elvis Presley and John Belushi, which is kind of a hell of a run there. He was literally the guy that found Belushi in his bungalow, overdosed. So went on to do a lot more movies and do well in them, and is fantastic. He's just a real good blockhead in this one. He really, it's shades of the Benny Urquidez fight in Wheels with Meals. Meals with Wheels? Wheels with, which I didn't talk about except obliquely, I think, in some past episodes. But go look up that fight on YouTube. That is an all-timer. Benny Urquidez, Jackie Chan. Wheels on Meals. It's Wheels on Meals from 1984. Go look that up. The one in this movie, in The Protector with Bill Wallace, shades of that fight, but still very good. And otherwise, again, the final 15 minutes is something to see. He does this thing where he's on a suspended platform. I think it's suspended by a crane. There's also a helicopter involved. I don't think the helicopter is what's suspending the platform. I think there's a gun on the helicopter that's, complicating matters. And he gets off that platform in a fantastic way. It somehow manages to deliver on the Jackie Chan stuff and kind of the 80s action movie stuff, but squarely in the middle of both. So it's worth a watch. I was pleasantly surprised by it. But again, if after everything I've said, you've got a good idea of what you're in store for, I think you'll enjoy The Protector a lot. I enjoyed The Protector a lot, is what I'm trying to say. So thanks for hanging out, as always. Hopefully I get another one of these out at least next week. And if everything goes smoothly, it will be, I think I just remembered what it is. So I'm going to try to at least go back and forth here a little bit. In fact, I think I'm still got Hong Kong on the mind. So we're going to watch more Hong Kong action than not. But again, in kind of peppering in some of these movies from the States, and if you check out that list on Letterboxd, you're going to see quite possibly the next movie I'm going to talk about is American Ninja from I think also 85. Yes, that is correct. So I'm sure it'll be another learning experience for all of us. This was one that certainly made the list because of, again, there's kind of 2 documentaries that make up the foundation of this list that I'm going through, and one of them is Iron Fists and Kung Fu Kicks, if I haven't transposed that yet again. That's probably not available on Netflix anymore, but look it up, it's very good. And In Search of the Last Action Heroes, which is also very good, but certainly leans more into the United States flavor of action movie. So with any luck, American Ninja is going to be the next one we talk about. And also with any luck, you're going to go over to Patreon and contribute, or PayPal for that matter. There should be subscription and donation links not far from where you're at this point. And that just, I hate asking for money. I do. It sucks, but if there's 1 or 2 people out there that want to support me in doing this, then I can do more of it. If not, then we'll see how long I have left. Not to be dire about it, but I've got a family, and hopefully they tuned in this week. Okay, see you guys.